Welcome back, everyone. Today we'll be taking a deep dive into Coco Meller's Cleopatra and Frankenstein.
It's a fascinating novel
It is
with lots to unpack.
absolutely not your typical love story.
Yeah.
It's set in New York City and revolves around Cleo, this young British artist,
Yeah.
and Frank, this older American ad executive. But we're not just gonna, rehash the plot.
No,
We're going deeper.
much deeper.
Looking at the characters, the relationships, all the subtle things that make this book so thought-provoking.
Exactly.
So if you're into, complex characters and relationships, this deep dive is for you.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's start with Cleo and Frank.
Okay.
Their first meeting on New Year's Eve.
Hmm.
It's kind of like straight out of movie, right?
Kind of, yeah.
A chance encounter. They share a pizza. But even in that first conversation, there's this underlying tension.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Especially when they talk about men buying women.
Right. What did you think about that?
It's like, whoa! Sets the tone for the whole relationship.
Totally agree.
Mellors is hinting at the power dynamics and societal expectations that'll play out throughout the book.
It's brilliant, really.
And then, boom,
Yeah.
they get married just a few weeks later.
Yeah, a whirlwind, right?
Total whirlwind.
Makes you wonder.
Oh, totally.
Is it true love?
Or are they just running from something?
Maybe both.
Right. Cleo especially seems to struggle with anxieties.
For sure.
Remember that part where she's changing clothes 100 times before a party?
Oh, yeah. She's so worried about how people see her.
Exactly. It's as if she's hiding behind this carefully constructed facade.
Interesting.
And then there's that line where she says, sometimes Frank is the whole.
Ooh, that line gets me every time.
I know, right?
So powerful.
What do you think she means by that?
Well, on the surface, it sounds like he's a void in her life.
Yeah.
Like he's not fulfilling her needs.
But maybe it's deeper than that.
I think so.
Maybe he actually makes her insecurities worse.
Ooh, that's an interesting take.
He takes more than he gives.
Makes her feel drained.
Yeah, exactly.
And it makes you think about the other characters, too.
Yes. Like Anders, Frank's best friend.
Yeah, the Danish guy.
He's always observing American culture with this, amused detachment.
Right, like he's an outsider looking in.
Do you think he's there just for comic relief, or...?
I think he's more than that.
Yeah.
Remember that scene in the elevator?
Oh, with that couple?
Yes.
All over each other.
And he just, squirming.
That's so awkward.
But it makes you think, right, about cultural differences.
Definitely.
What's normal in one place might be totally weird somewhere else.
Yeah, and the boundaries we set in relationships.
It's like, how much is too much?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you have Zoe, Frank's sister.
Oh, yeah, she's a whole other story.
She is always pushing boundaries.
Going to those climaxing to consciousness workshops?
I mean, come on. That's wild.
It is, but it also kind of makes sense for her character.
Right. She's on this quest for self-discovery. Maybe she's even rebelling against expectations.
Totally.
And then there's the whole sugar daddy thing.
Ooh, yeah, that was unexpected.
Definitely raises questions about power dynamics.
For sure.
And transactional relationships.
Heavy stuff.
It is, but it's also kind of fascinating how Mellors weaves it all together.
Yeah, she's a talented writer.
Okay, so we've got Cleo and Frank, this whirlwind romance built on shaky ground.
Right.
Anders observing everything with a raised eyebrow. And Zoe off on her own unconventional journey. But they all have this one thing in common.
What's that?
Complicated family histories.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Frank with his alcoholic mother and absent father.
Definitely shaped him.
And Cleo, haunted by her mother's mental illness and suicide.
Those scars run deep.
It's like they're both trying to create the families they never had.
Seeking comfort and validation.
But can love really conquer all that baggage?
That's the question, isn't it?
That's what we need to unpack.
Exactly.
And I think Mellors gives us clues through the symbolism and motifs she uses.
Oh, for sure. There's so much there.
What about all the gold?
Right. Gold everywhere.
Cleo's jewelry, Frank's apartment.
It's like a symbol of their world.
Yeah, the allure of wealth.
But also the emptiness of it.
Like they're trapped in this gilded cage.
That's a good way to put it.
And then there's the color red.
Ooh, yes, red.
So vibrant and intense.
It's like Cleo's artistic passion.
But also, there's a sense of danger.
Like a warning sign.
Exactly. What do you make of that?
Well, I think it shows the duality of their relationship.
Okay, yeah.
The passion can be both creative and destructive.
Like fire.
Exactly. It can warm you or burn you.
Okay, that's a great analogy.
And then there are the animal motifs.
Oh, yeah. Like Cleo being compared to a cat.
Independent, elusive.
Always landing on her feet.
Exactly. And the sugar glider Frank gives her.
Oh, yeah, that little creature that glides through the air.
It's like a symbol of their happiness.
So fragile, so fleeting.
Like it could disappear at any moment.
Okay, so we've got gold, red, cats, sugar gliders.
All these symbols pointing to deeper meanings.
And then, bam, Cleo swallows her wedding ring.
Whoa. What a scene.
I know. Like, she's rejecting everything.
Her marriage, her life, all of it.
Makes you wonder what led to that.
And then she buries herself in the soil.
Oh my gosh, that scene.
So raw, so powerful.
Like she's trying to reconnect with something primal.
Maybe with her mother, with nature.
Or just with herself.
It's open to interpretation, but it's definitely a turning point.
And then that scene where she confronts Frank about his drinking.
Ooh, that one was tough.
All those unspoken truths finally coming out.
And their inability to really communicate.
Yeah, you can feel the love is still there.
But it's buried under all this resentment.
So sad.
It is.
But it sets the stage for the rest of the story.
And that final scene in Rome.
Where they meet again.
Filled with tension and uncertainty.
Will they make it?
We'll have to dive deeper to find out.
That's for our next segment.
Can't wait.
This is getting good.
It is. So we left off with that cliffhanger in Rome.
Yeah, big questions hanging in the air.
And that's where Cleo's Red Room comes in.
Right, her final art piece.
More than just an art piece, though.
What do you mean?
It's an experience.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Think about it. That intense red.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Not just a color, it's a feeling.
Okay, yeah.
Passion, rage, heartbreak.
They're raw emotions.
Exactly. The ones Cleo's been wrestling with.
And remember, we talked about red and violence earlier.
Right, so is this room a sign of the damage?
Or is it about her taking back control?
Maybe both.
That's what makes it so powerful, right?
Absolutely. It's open to interpretation.
Like, for some people, it could be about the scars Frank left. But for others, it could be about her resilience.
We're turning pain into art.
Yeah, like, this is what you did, but look what I made.
Exactly. Confrontation and transformation.
Powerful stuff.
And this idea of transformation, we see it throughout the book.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like when Cleo meets that American tourist in France.
Right, after her mother's death.
She's grieving, lost.
And throws herself into this reckless fling.
It's self-destructive, but also liberating.
Like she's breaking free, even if it's just for a moment.
Searching for something, anything.
And Frank's reaction, so jealous and possessive.
Shows the unhealthy dynamics in their relationship.
He doesn't see her as an individual.
More like something he owns.
And it all circles back to family, doesn't it?
Absolutely. How our past shapes our present.
Frank, especially, seems trapped by his upbringing.
His parents' dysfunction, his own bad habits.
And he ever escaped that?
It's hard to say. There are glimpses of hope.
Like when he admits he hurt Cleo.
But then he falls back into old patterns.
Drinking, self-pity.
The cycle continues.
Cleo, on the other hand, seems to be growing.
Becoming more self-aware.
Like at that party at Danny's studio.
Right. Surrounded by all those successful artists.
But she doesn't try to fit in.
She's observing, interacting, but on her own terms.
And that moment with Anders, the ice water.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Talk about a power move.
She's done with his crap, with everyone's expectations.
Like she's finally free.
It's a statement.
And Zoe, her storyline is so interesting.
Right. On the surface, it's all light and quirky.
But there's depth there, too.
Absolutely. She's challenging our ideas of what a good life looks like.
Exploring different paths, different kinds of intimacy.
Her therapy workshops, her relationship with Jiro.
It's all unconventional, but it works for her.
It's about finding your own way, even if it's weird.
Exactly. And speaking of unconventional, what about those mirrors?
Mirrors.
They pop up a lot in the book.
You're right.
I think they're about self-reflection.
Facing your true self.
Cleo's always staring at herself.
Like she's searching for something.
And Frank, when he's drunk, he catches glimpses of himself.
Distorted reflections of his inner demons.
Like the mirrors are forcing them to see what they're hiding.
And they're all hiding something, aren't they?
Secrets, pain, fears.
It's all bubbling under the surface.
In New York City, it's like a pressure cooker.
The energy, the pace, it intensifies everything.
Cleo, being new to the city, feels it the most.
She's lost and overwhelmed, but also excited.
And Frank, even though he's a native New Yorker, he's lost too.
His inner turmoil mirroring the chaos of the city.
It's like the city itself is a character.
Shaping their destinies.
And through it all, there's this thread of forgiveness.
Oh yeah, forgiveness is huge in this book.
They've all been hurt, made mistakes.
Cleo can't forgive herself for her mother. Frank is burdened by his family's past.
Even Anders carries the weight of his failed marriage.
They're all trying to let go, to move on.
But forgiveness is hard.
It's a process, not a switch you flip.
And sometimes the hardest person to forgive is yourself.
That's so true.
But there's hope in this book, a sense that healing is possible.
We've covered a lot. The Red Room, family, New York City, forgiveness.
But we can't forget that ending in Rome.
Oh yeah, that ending.
Full of possibility, but also uncertainty.
We need to unpack that. It's the key to the whole novel.
Stay tuned, folks. We're going deep into that ending. That final scene in Rome. It's like a whole different vibe, right?
Yeah, more subdued, contemplative.
The energy shifts, things slow down.
And that sense of anticipation.
Like, what's going to happen?
Mellors leaves it open-ended.
Which is brilliant, I think.
Totally agree. It's up to us to imagine what happens next.
We've come this whole way with Cleo and Frank.
Through all their ups and downs.
And now we're left wondering...
Will they get back together?
Or go their separate ways?
Such a powerful ending.
It is, because they've both changed so much.
Yeah, especially Cleo.
She's not that insecure girl anymore.
She's found her own strength, her own voice.
As an artist, as a woman.
She doesn't need Frank's validation anymore.
And Frank, he seems to be getting his act together.
At least trying to.
Acknowledging his mistakes, facing his demons.
But has he really changed?
That's the big question.
The one we're left pondering.
Can he be the partner Cleo needs?
Mellors doesn't give us easy answers.
Which I appreciate.
Me too. It's more realistic that way.
It's like life, you know? Messy, unpredictable.
We make choices, we deal with the consequences.
And sometimes we have to live with the uncertainty.
Exactly. And that's what makes this ending so powerful.
It's not about closure.
It's about embracing the complexity of it all.
The beauty of imperfection.
And Mellors is such a skilled writer. She captures all that nuance.
Oh, absolutely. Her characters are so flawed, so real.
You can't help but root for them, even when they screw up.
Exactly. They feel like people you could actually meet.
And before we wrap up, there are a few more things I wanted to touch on.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack with this book.
Like, what about all the birds?
Birds.
Yeah, they keep appearing throughout the story.
I hadn't really noticed that.
They're often symbols of freedom, escape.
Okay, yeah, like when Cleo watches those birds take flight.
Exactly. It's like a visual representation of her own longing.
To break free, to soar above it all.
And Frank, with his sugar glider, another creature that can fly.
He wants that too, a life without limits.
Even Cleo's mother's bird mugs become symbolic.
You're right. It's like each bird represents a different journey, a different path to self-discovery.
Mellors is so good at weaving these layers of meaning into the story.
And the way she plays with time, jumping back and forth.
The non-linear structure.
It keeps you on your toes.
And it reflects how our own minds work.
You know, we're always revisiting memories, reinterpreting the past.
Trying to make sense of it all.
It's like we're piecing together a puzzle, just like the characters.
And even with all the heavy stuff, the trauma, the addiction.
Mellors finds moments of humor.
Yeah, she doesn't let it get too dark.
Cleo and Frank's banter. Zoe's quirky comments.
It all adds a touch of lightness, keeps it real.
Okay, so before we say goodbye,
Yeah.
there's one more thing I wanted to mention.
Go for it.
It's not explicitly stated in the book, but it kept coming to mind.
What is it?
The myth of Icarus.
Icarus. The guy who flew too close to the sun.
Yeah, and I think all the characters are kind of like Icarus.
In what way?
They're all reaching for something, but they risk getting burned.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Cleo, with her impulsive marriage, her reckless affair.
She pushes boundaries, risks it all for love and art.
And Frank, blinded by ambition, almost loses everything.
Even Zoe, with her unconventional choices, could get hurt.
But Icarus, even though he fell, he dared to dream big.
And that's what Cleopatra and Frankenstein is about, too.
The courage to dream, to take risks, to live fully.
Even if it means making mistakes along the way.
It's a celebration of imperfection, of being human.
Messy, complicated, but ultimately hopeful.
So if you're looking for a book that will stay with you.
A book that will make you think, make you feel.
Cleopatra and Frankenstein, is it?
It's a must-read for anyone who's ever loved and lost.
And dared to dream of a life less ordinary.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone.
It's been a pleasure.
And until next time, happy reading.